My name is Lydia Ryall. I'm one of the farmers here at Cropthorne Farm. We are located on Westham Island on the Fraser Delta in the city of Delta. 2025 was our 17th year of production, and we've been on this property since 2012. We farm year-round. We have up to 20 employees in the summer and over winter about 10, so right now we're at about 12 to 13. It's still a busy time of year despite it being kind of mid-fall. We are in one of our main fields. The property is 50 acres and we manage about 20 acres in annual vegetables, and so this is what we call Field 9, which now is cover crop after kind of September's harvest. So this is kind of what things look like in November. We've been using cover crops on the farm since the very beginning. We work with Delta Farm and Wildlife Trust. They're an organization that was based out of Delta for cover cropping, and so it's always been something that we've done. I think the main reason for cover cropping at the beginning was just it's good for the land. So making sure that we had a cover over the soil for the winter months and getting organic matter back into the soil. So a few exciting things about the cover cropping we do is we work with a crop consulting company, and they're always impressed with the biologicals, or the good bugs in our fields, because they come and monitor for pests. And so I think that plays a big part in some of our summer cover crops. We use a lot of beneficial flowers, and so and the pollinators are around, so it's really great to kind of make sure that we have an insectary of all those little insects that can then kind of do battle in some of the our vegetable crops. Our approach with cover cropping this season, kind of based on observation from other years, is try to do as much as we can early. The earlier we get it in, the less likely we're going to see waterfowl damage, but also the earlier we get it in, we don't have to rush and get it in at the end of September. The end of September can be a little dicey weather-wise. It didn't turn out to be the case this year, but you never know. So the more cover crop we can get in earlier, it's just like a stress relief. It's always so nice to get it done as soon as we're able. We had a record amount of cover crops seeded this year. We were actually ahead of schedule on harvesting our storage crops, which is kind of unheard of, but the weather just allowed us to keep harvesting, and that allowed us to get cover crop in a really timely manner. So yeah, the weather was a huge benefit for us this year. We've had it that other years we are harvesting potatoes, and as soon as the last potato is dug, we have a tractor disking in the potato trash and a seeder running 20 minutes later because the rain's coming. And so some years it is such a fight to get cover crop in, and some years the weather doesn't allow it. So when you get years like this, it's an absolute dream. You can kind of do what you want, when you want. So we know it's not always going to be like a year like this, but yeah, pretty grateful for it. There's been a few surprises over the last few years in terms of cover cropping. I think at the beginning, I didn't realize how impactful waterfowl can be, and that's really changed our strategy. This area, we get a lot of snow geese, but we also get widgeon. It's a smaller dabbling duck, and they spend the day out in the marsh, and then in the evening they come in to feed. And now we really adjust our timing and our species based on the waterfowl, because some years they will mow it down completely and we get very little benefit. Our approach to cover cropping has changed over the last few years. I think at the beginning it was just good to get something in, and then kind of a few years ago we started using a lot of trying to do different seeds, so multi-species cover cropping, and that was really interesting. And now we've kind of flipped it almost back to the beginning. It's changed over the years, but every year we're changing and trying to dial things in, so it's ever evolving. When choosing cover crop species, we really look at the calendar of kind of what the seed date is. Early on in the season, so if we're planting cover crop in August or early September, we try to do a multi-species, so it might be a few different varieties in there. But as we get closer to the end of September, we pretty much do a mono, and it's usually oats. We did just see some really interesting data from field day recently, and the latest planting of oats was actually smaller than the barley, so that was really cool to see. So now we're thinking of maybe switching to barley for our last planting, but for the most part, oats has always been a crop that grows really fast and puts on a lot of organic matter, and it also winter kills, so it's not there in the spring, and that's a really important consideration for us. We do not want something that is putting on growth in the spring. We have pretty heavy clay soil here. If the cover crop is still growing, it's kind of holding the moisture in, and it takes us longer to get on the land in the springs. For us, oats has kind of always been our number one. We definitely do other things, but if I had to pick one cover crop that we keep kind of going back to, it has been oats, but I am excited for next year to try some barley in that last slot. So in this field here, it's a good example of two of the cover crop dates that we have. This one here, we planted September 30th. We grow dry beans, so this is a big field of dry beans that we finished harvesting kind of around mid-September. So the end of September, we planted this cover crop of oats. This planting here was an earlier planting. And we do mixed species. This one here is just one, it's straight oats. This one here, we've got a couple different things. We've got oats and vetch. So the vetch is a nitrogen fixer, so we have that in here as well. And you can see it's definitely a lot bigger than this one here. And yeah, this one went in around September 7th this year. So we've seen a few changes since starting cover cropping in our soil. Mostly soil organic matter has increased. It's actually quite hard to increase organic matter here on the Fraser Delta, so it's been really great to see it when we started here to be a 1 or 1.5. We're in like 4s and 5s, so it's been really cool to see that organic matter increase. Other things too is, yes, we can see things like less disease and maybe less pest pressure. That's a harder thing to see because we're not taking a soil test on those things. That's more just an observation, but we've definitely seen those as well. So the field we're in now, this actually was a 3-year grassland set aside. So we had it in, it was a mix of different grasses, and then we actually had sunflowers, phacelia, and a bunch of flowering cover crops as well. So it was in a 3-year grassland set aside. We worked that up in the summer, and we planted this oat cover crop at the end of August. So it's been out of vegetables for 3 years. So I'm excited to be rotating back into veg next year. So it's had a really good rest. And yeah, it was really cool to see the soil sample results from this field, just kind of see where the organic matter's up and where the nutrients are at. So yeah, next year it'll be vegetables. I think something really unique here on Westham Island and the Fraser Delta in general is, especially for those that are wanting to grow in the winter months, whether it's growing cover crops healthy or you're actually growing vegetables, is working on drainage. It's something, we have really heavy rainfall and we just need to find a way to move that out because nobody likes wet feet, whether human or plants, and so making sure that we're able to drain that water out to the Fraser River after a big rainfall event. It's something that we manage a lot. We have pumps and ditches to make sure that that water is moving. So that's something I think is really important so that cover crops don't flood out, and if you're growing winter veggies, that they don't flood out either. With drainage, it's just really important that we're moving the water. So in September, we're putting swales in. So this is just a swale just so that the water can move to, and then from these swales, we'll move them into the ditches to be pumped out. But yeah, just any little way that we can find to move water, to not have standing water out in the field that's gonna kind of kill the cover crop by just kind of getting those wet feet. And it's also, any time that there is open water out in the field, it's just a total landing pad for ducks. And as I said, we're kind of in a battle sometimes with those ducks. And so having these little swales and yeah, finding ways to move the water out is really important to kind of the success of the farm, and especially with the cover crops. One area that we're really excited to add cover crops to is our high tunnels. And like historically, you don't really think about cover cropping the tunnels because we're growing so intensively, like whether it's tomatoes in the summer months or long English cukes. And then this time of year, we're putting like lettuce in. So it always seems like there's a use for the greenhouse, and cover crops doesn't necessarily make economic sense. But last year we put up a new greenhouse, and so what that means for us is that we can use one whole greenhouse just for summer cover cropping. So this past year, one of our houses was like full of buckwheat. So it's just, great to add organic matter, both out in the field and then in the tunnels as well. We're kind of seeing some pretty cool results by adding the cover crops back in here. I think one of the most important thing for folks who are interested in implementing cover crops on their farm but don't know where to start is to ask neighbors or folks in their area who are farming. Similar climate and similar soils usually, and so they have a good idea of what works and what doesn't. Another really good resource is reaching out to the province, the Ministry of Agriculture, for their resources, and also there's other organizations that are doing cover crop trials. So there's a wealth of information out there to kind of see what's going on. I think what excites me most about cover cropping is not necessarily seeing the results next season, but it's the year-on-year results. Every season is different, but it's this upward spiral of growth. We're learning each year, we're adapting to it, trying something different. So to me, it's just the cover cropping program here at our farm. It's an evolution. We try to do something different and learn, and I never see us stuck doing one thing. You don't necessarily see giant gains year over year, but it's like small incremental growth that we see each season that you can kind of get excited about.